When Sabrent announced their Rocket XTRM-Q SSD drives, we instantly pre-ordered one, and then a couple of weeks later, they reached out to us and offered to send us a couple of these drives, which we obviously accepted. So here we have the 2TB and 4TB models that we've been testing, and so far we've been extremely impressed because they support very fast Thunderbolt 3 speeds, just as you'd expect from an SSD that's built into one of Apple's modern Macs or a high-end Windows machine. But compared to Apple's SSDs, the Sabrents are better. First of all, because of the price. Here's a side-by-side chart showing how much money you save with a Sabrent drive compared to Apple storage upgrade prices on the 2025K iMac. That's a savings of $800 for an 8TB drive. And on top of that, it's nearly impossible to take an Apple SSD off of a Mac thanks to them either being soldered on or controlled by the T2 chip. So if you get one of these excellent Sabrent drives, you can take it with you when you eventually upgrade to an Apple Silicon Mac later on in the future. And to make it even better, these Sabrent drives support both Thunderbolt 3 and USB-C ports, compared to a lot of other Thunderbolt 3 drives, like this one that we custom built, which only works with Thunderbolt 3. Whereas the Sabrent drives are actually going to work with basically any modern computer, like a Windows laptop or even an iPad Pro, at a very impressive rated speed of 900 megabytes per second. So the Sabrent XTRM-Q drives are really the optimal choice for convenience going into the future, especially since it's one of the few drives available right now that you can actually get with up to a massive 8 terabytes of storage. Now with all of that said, let me finally get into reviewing the drive itself, starting with the design and portability. The build quality is really nice with an aluminum finish all around the SSD, and the design is very subtle and clean, with nothing but 2 logos on the top, one for Sabrent and one for Thunderbolt. On the underside, there are 2 rubber strips that stop the aluminum SSD from going all over your desk like other drives like this custom one does, and they also help keep the finish looking great. And the included 3-foot Thunderbolt 3 cable matches up to the dark gray aluminum exterior very well. And for being able to support up to a massive 8 terabytes of storage, this SSD is incredibly compact while also having a nice and solid amount of weight to it. This is probably due to the thermal pad that's included inside the enclosure for heat dissipation. And because of the slim and compact design, you can easily slide this into your pocket or throw it into your laptop bag to make for the most portable, high-capacity SSD out there. Now let's finally get into the technical side of this storage drive. Plugging it in for the first time, it worked exactly as I expected. A blank drive with 4 terabytes of capacity, ready to use at any time. No driver installation or reformatting required. And getting into the performance of this drive, we ended up running the same transfer stress test that we ran for one of our videos, where we compared the most popular portable Thunderbolt 3 SSDs in 2020. Running the Blackmagic disk speed test, the other 1TB drives were faster than this one in terms of read speed. And the story was actually the same for the write speed, being slower than those drives. But wait, don't judge a drive by its benchmarks, because this one is actually faster than the others for large transfers, as you'll see in just a second. The reason for that is something called SLC cache, which basically means that it can write a certain amount of data really fast before it slows down. And they do this to make the drives more cost effective. So looking at the other drives, you only get those high transfer speeds for a limited amount of data transferred, like only 20 gigs on the G drive and about 48 gigabytes on the Samsung X5 SSD. So basically, if you're transferring a file from your computer to the drive that's larger than the amount of SLC cache, then the transfer speed actually slows down, like in the case of the OWC drive, slowing all the way down to a minimum speed of 950 megabytes per second write speed after 30 gigs is transferred. So we ended up transferring a large 172 gigabyte file to each drive, and the differences in SLC cache and minimum speed caused a huge difference in the amount of time for the transfer to finish. Now this is where Sabrent's XTRM-Q drive comes in. Both of them, even the 2TB model, finished the test in only 1 minute and 27 seconds, beating out all of the other drives in real-world transfer speed, even though it was slower in terms of the write speed benchmark. That's because there was no SLC cache limit for these drives in that test. running at full speed for the entire 172 gig file transfer. So we ended up transferring a much larger 403 gig file, and we were surprised to see that it transferred the entire 403 gigabytes without hitting an SLC cache limit. And we saw the same results for the 2 terabyte model. And as soon as that transfer finished, I transferred it again, and for only around 20 seconds, the write speed went down to around 1400 to 1500 megabytes per second before going back up to the full speed for the rest of the transfer. So that's super impressive. And to make these Sabrent drives even better, they support both Thunderbolt 3 and USB-C at the same time. And out of those 4 drives that we tested, only the LaCie drive came with that same support. So we transferred that 403 gig file on the LaCie drive, and it took almost twice as long as the Sabrent drive because of its SLC cache limit, slowing down the write speeds. So based on all of those tests that we ran, these Sabrent drives are actually faster than those 4 drives in terms of real-world transfer speeds. And the cherry on top is that they're much less expensive as well. The 1 terabyte model is only $220 compared to a huge $402 for the LaCie drive. And it's even less expensive than the OWC drive, which we had many issues with. And even though its SLC cache is lower than our 2 terabyte and 4 terabyte models, it still smokes the more expensive drives. And then moving up to a 2 terabyte model, the Sabrent is only $360 compared to $702 for the LaCie. And interestingly, the 2 terabyte Sabrent is actually closer to the price of the 1 terabyte versions of the other drives. So we would recommend the 2 terabyte model since we didn't hit an SLC cache limit even after 400 gigabytes. And out of all of those drives, the Sabrent is much more portable and compact. And it's the only one available with a massive 8 terabytes of storage for $1,600, which may sound expensive, but it's $800 less than Apple charges for an 8 terabyte SSD that you can't remove and you can't take with you. So with all that said, let's finish off our testing with how this Sabrent drive compares to the custom SSD that we built. Well, that custom drive was actually 23 seconds faster in our 172 gigabyte transfer test. And that's because the write speeds were faster than on the Sabrent drive. However, there are a few major drawbacks with our custom-built SSD that outweigh the faster speeds. The main one is the price. For both the enclosure and the 1 terabyte SSD, you're looking at $330 for the custom drive compared to only $220 for the Sabrent drive. And of course, it's already pre-assembled, so you don't have to open it up and install the drive yourself. But the biggest drawback is the fact that the custom drive only supports Thunderbolt 3, while the Sabrent also supports USB-C. So we were able to hook it up to our iPad Pro and easily transfer some files, and that level of convenience is why we recommend it over the custom SSD. So with all of that said, we can safely say that the new Sabrent XTRM-Q external SSDs are by far the best bang for the buck drives we've ever used, easily outclassing the most popular Thunderbolt 3 SSDs and even being a better choice than our custom-built drive. And if you're interested in buying one of these drives for your Mac, your PC, or even your iPad, then you can find the links to the various storage sizes of these new Sabrent drives down in the description below. And if you want to see more reviews like this one, go ahead and click the circle above to subscribe, and be sure to check out our Apple product merch like this t-shirt or one of our masks down below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.